Live, this is News Channel 8 at 6 on your side.
And right now at 6, we are again tracking the tropics. A new storm system forms in the Atlantic, the latest on its path, and the prep's already underway here in the Bay Area. Good evening, I'm Stacy Schott.
And I'm Keith Kate. Thank you for joining us tonight. Subtropical storm Nicole is slowly but surely moving towards Florida. And while it is not a hurricane just yet, there are new models showing the entire state could be in its path as it develops within the next few days. And
Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli joins us now with what is going on, what we can expect, and boy, it's nerve-wracking at this time of the year.
Well, we don't want it, that's for sure. It's November. We could do without the tropical storm, but the good news here is that it's going to be a fairly weak system by the time it reaches us. Good. It's not going to have a huge impact, but it will have some significant impact. So let's take it to the wall, and we'll show you what's going on right now. So first of all, what does it mean to be subtropical? It means it's not purely a warm core system. It's not purely a tropical system, meaning it can't concentrate all of its energy right near its core, meaning it can't become very strong when it's a subtropical system. What it does also do, though, is it spreads its energy over a very wide area, as you can see right here. So what ends up happening is a lot of people are affected by moderate winds rather than a smaller amount of people being affected by extreme winds. That's what we're looking at with this system right now. Although as it moves in that direction and it moves over very warm water, we do think it may acquire tropical characteristics, so it may briefly become a low-end hurricane before it makes landfall on the east coast of Florida. But right now it's dealing with a lot of dry air, so to become a hurricane it has to get rid of some of that dry air. It has to wrap the moisture around it and kind of consolidate. And that may or may not happen. We do think it's going to be strengthening. Winds 45 right now. It is likely to pick up winds at least to a strong tropical storm or a low-end hurricane as we head towards late Wednesday evening and early Thursday morning when it makes landfall in and around the Stewart, Vero Beach, Fort Pierce area along the east coast. And then it makes its way across the state. And as all tropical systems do, it weakens as it makes its way west so that it's located in the northern part of the Bay Area, especially around the Nature Coast. With winds 45, 50 miles an hour as we head into Thursday afternoon. Now, the reason why we do think it could become a tropical system, and it's likely to become one, is because as it moves across the Bahamas, it encounters very warm water, 84, 86 degrees. So it's going to strengthen a little bit. Notice the computer model forecasts all kind of within the cone from the National Hurricane Center right here, with the consensus of the models just to the north of Tampa towards the Nature Coast. But again, the worst impacts will be along the east coast. So here's a look at your timeline. For us in the Tampa Bay area, squalls will increase Wednesday. They'll become more frequent by nightfall. Then the worst impacts will be late Wednesday night and through Thursday evening. So the worst of it Thursday morning across the Tampa Bay area. We'll see gusts 40 to 55 miles an hour and isolated gusts to about 60 miles an hour. Maybe some isolated tornadoes. Rainfall about 2 to 4 inches or so, and some coastal overwash as the system moves out, some minor coastal flooding with that onshore breeze. What does this mean? That means some scattered power outages. That means some trees down, maybe superficial damage to your home, but it should not be a huge impact event for the Bay Area. More details on this and some big changes by the weekend in just a bit.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. And here is a bit of good news. That storm is not going to impact voters on Election Day tomorrow. 8 on your side's Brittany Muller joins us now live in Gulfport with what you need to know. Beautiful sunset behind you there, Brittany.
Stacey, it has been gorgeous, and we know that the National Weather Service says that Nicole could reach hurricane intensity by Wednesday. We spoke with residents out here who say they're not planning on evacuating, but they are preparing.
As Category 4 Hurricane Ian brought destruction to southwest Florida over a month ago. All eyes are now on subtropical storm Nicole, swirling toward Florida's east coast.
Doing what we always do. We are watching and kind of waiting a little bit.
Tammy Vasquez lives on Treasure Island. She evacuated during Ian and came home to downed tree limbs. Vasquez owns Bark Life in Seminole.
It's a doggy daycare and boarding, so we have tarps over our outdoor play yard. So we're taking those down tomorrow in preparation.
In Pinellas County, our meteorologists say there will be lower than normal high tides, up to 40 miles per hour winds starting on Wednesday night, and rounds of tropical gusty downpours.
We always have an evacuation plan in case even at last minute we actually evacuate to our business.
With the potential of Nicole strengthening into a hurricane, Governor Ron DeSantis has declared a state of emergency in 34 counties, including some in the Bay Area.
This late in the year is crazy, but it's so warm, it's not that surprising.
There are hurricane and tropical storm watches in effect for parts of the state, and that's why state leaders are encouraging residents to be prepared ahead of the storm. Reporting live this evening in Gulfport, Brittany Muller, 8 on your side.
Thank you, Brittany. Along the Peace River in Bartow, people are just starting to get back to normal now that the floodwaters there have finally receded. Our Polk County Bureau reporter Stacy DeSilva joining us live from Bartow with how folks are feeling about this late season storm coming around. Stacy.
Keith, the Peace River actually started rising before Hurricane Ian during a period of heavy rains in the late summer, and Hurricane Ian just made it so much worse. The last thing people here want to see is this river rise again.
Just leave them up there because we'll put the brick on top of this one.
Felix Atkinson is shielding his home from another potential rainmaker.
I don't know why or what happened, but I went and got me a, I had to pay for a tarp, but it is what it is. I'm just going to put it on, and me and my son, we're going to cover it up until after this little storm passes.
This little storm, as he calls it, is subtropical storm Nicole. It's no Hurricane Ian, which flooded much of Peace River Mobile Home Park in Bartow for weeks.
You can go ahead and blow that off, and then we'll put the tarp up there.
For Nicole, Atkinson is putting metal panels back up around his house.
Just to keep that water out from under our little house, that's a whole thing in a nutshell, We just want to keep the water from under the house.
At the Polk County Emergency Operations Center, Emergency Management Director Paul Womble has concerns about rain from Nicole due to Ian-related vulnerabilities.
We've got debris on the ground still, and power systems may not be completely hardened as they were before Ian, so you add all that up, so there's certainly some potential impacts in the county.
Some places, Womble says, are still flooded from Ian or could easily flood again. And Felix just hopes his house isn't one of them. Womble says the Peace River just dropped below flood stage in the last week or two, so in addition to the wind, the full impact of this storm will come down to how much rain falls here. Reporting live in Bartow, I'm Stacy DeSilva, 8 on your side.
And just a quick reminder to see more coverage on resources available and more on subtropical storm Nicole. Just download our Max Defender 8 weather app. It's free right now on your preferred app store.
In Hillsborough County, both Republicans and Democrats are focused on motivating people to go to the polls tomorrow. In Hillsborough County, the supervisor of elections says the number of early voters is down compared to the past 2 election cycles. Today, we found Democratic volunteers going door to door looking for support. Republicans also out with campaign workers making calls to motivate the voters.
We also have a pretty big election integrity team that is out. They've been out all weekend at the polling sites for the end of early voting.
Right now, people are out there. Every man is out there on the street and woman that we have knocking on doors and getting those last-minute voters who have not made up their mind, haven't decided where to go, how they're going to vote.
So again, just to be clear, the early voting is now over. To vote tomorrow, you will need to go to your designated precinct to cast your vote in person. And the 2 candidates for governor are taking advantage of every minute on this final day of campaigning.
They are busy indeed. Ron DeSantis and Charlie Crist making their final pitches to voters. 8 on your side's Jack Royer joins us live in Tampa with that story. Jack.
Stacey and Keith, good evening from Casa Crist here in Tampa, where we'll hear from Charlie Crist for the final time in about 2 hours to a room full of supporters at what was designed to be a Hispanic voter outreach center opened about 2 months ago. But both Crist and DeSantis have been hot on the campaign trail in the final hours.
Are you happy to live in the free state of Florida?
Governor Ron DeSantis is hoping his last 4 years in the governor's office will earn him 4 more.
Are we going to make sure on Tuesday we keep it that way?
Speaking to an enthusiastic crowd in Palm Beach, DeSantis using familiar refrains about his opponent and encouraging supporters to get out the vote. A similar closing message today from Democratic nominee Charlie Crist, hosting several Get Out the Vote events in South Florida today before campaigning with Senate candidate Val Demings tonight. He says decency is on the ballot.
Fairness and decency and kindness and doing what's right for Florida. Instead of tearing our state apart, we got to bring Florida back together.
Both candidates playing their hits, in the final hours of campaigning. And after seeming to jeer him on the campaign trail this weekend by using a new nickname, Donald Trump today endorsed Ron DeSantis for re-election. That move comes as there's speculation building around both men that they might seek the White House in 2024. As for Crist, we'll hear from him one final time on this election eve around 8 o'clock. In Tampa, Jack Royer, 8 on your side.
All right, thank you, Jack. And we continue our team coverage ahead of Election Day as the final countdown continues.
Next at 6, the items election officials say you need to bring with you before you head out to vote on Election Day.
Plus, coming up in sports tonight, the Bucs head coach Todd Bowles talking about a rookie that is beginning to emerge as a reliable target for quarterback Tom Brady.
You're watching News Channel 8 at 6 with Stacy Scheibel, Keith Kate, Dan Lucas Sports, and Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli.
Right now in Hillsborough County, approximately 34% of eligible voters have already cast their ballots. The county's election supervisor says so far the early voting turnout is less than the 2018 and the 2020 election cycle.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised by that, but he expects tomorrow will be a very busy day at the polls. 8 on your side wants to make sure it's also a smooth one. Masa Saidi is live at the supervisor's main office on Falkenberg Road and Columbus Drive. And Masa, what are you seeing out there?
Keith and Stacey, good evening. People are stopping by here to drop off their mail ballots. They're also coming here with questions about the process. Now, if you have questions, but you don't have time to come here, we got you covered. Here are the top things that you need to know before casting your ballot tomorrow on Election Day.
In the final hours before the midterms, 8 on your side is talking with voters about top concerns. For Neil Brown, one pressing issue is the economy.
Everybody's being impacted. We need food prices to continue to go down, not go up. Rent has gone skyrocketing.
What will you be watching most closely tomorrow night?
You know, we've got our routine down pretty good.
Since 2013, Craig Latimer has been Hillsborough's top election official. First, tips for those casting a ballot Election Day. Remember, on Tuesday, you must vote in your designated precinct or your vote will not count. Bring a current and valid photo ID with signature. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you're in line by 7 sharp, you will be able to vote.
We always get a nice crunch of vote-by-mail ballots get dropped on Election Day.
Next, tips for those voting by mail. If you still have your ballot, you have until 7 p.m. Election Day to drop it off. You must deliver it to the Supervisor of Elections office, not a precinct. In Florida, you can track your mail ballot online. If your election supervisor has not received it yet, you can choose to vote in person at your precinct on Election Day.
Do you have any concerns about voter intimidation?
You know, I don't. In Florida, we have some great laws. You can't just walk up and say, I want to be a poll watcher.
Finally, if a poll worker challenges your eligibility, you may be asked to vote a provisional ballot. Your ballot will not go in the tabulator. Instead, you'll put it in a secrecy envelope and sign the outside. The signature will be compared with the one on file. You'll get a stub with a ticket number. It is up to you to check the status of your provisional ballot online.
And Craig Latimer says don't freak out if you get a provisional ballot. It's not a bad thing. Now, whether you vote by provisional ballot or you vote by mail, you have 2 days to cure your ballot or to fix any signature issues that may exist. So the deadline, Stacey Keith, would be Thursday by 5 p.m.
All right, Masa, I know you said that the early voting turnout was better in 2018, but by how much compared to now?
Yes, Stacey, the early voting turnout was better in 2018 by a lot. I'm told of all eligible voters, more than 20% had voted then versus now. So very interesting, as you said, surprising.
All right, thank you. Masa Saidi reporting live for us tonight.
Max Defender 8, the most advanced weather radar in Florida. Sponsored by Cool Today.
Good Monday evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli. So obviously the big story is that we're going to see a tropical storm here Wednesday night and Thursday. It is not going to be a very big deal, but there will be some significant impacts, and one of those, wind. So we have a tropical storm watch in effect for Polk County, Hardy, DeSoto, and Highlands County. Now, there's probably going to be a very strong tropical storm, if not a low-end hurricane, making landfall sometime Wednesday night here on the East Coast, in and around the Stewart, Fort Pierce, Vero Beach area, and then moving across the state. Because of that, because it's likely to be close to hurricane status, a hurricane watch is in effect for the East Coast. It's a very broad circulation. This is more of kind of a dip in the jet stream. You can kind of see it right there. But eventually, as it starts to keep spiraling and it moves over warm water, it could take on not just subtropical, but eventually tropical characteristics as it moves west towards the Bahamas, and then it should strengthen. And so the official forecast is for it to strengthen as it moves by Freeport right there in the Bahamas. And it could become a very low-end hurricane by then. It's going to take time to make that transition, and so I don't think it's going to become very strong. That's probably about as strong as it can get, maybe just slightly stronger as it makes landfall on the East Coast. That would be, again, late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, and then it makes its way across the state, so it's located right near or on top of the Tampa Bay area. This would be Thursday afternoon, but the worst of our weather will likely be sometime around Thursday morning. Looking outside right now, it is dark in Lakewood Ranch. The temperature is 78 degrees. The dew point is still high. Got to 87 in Tampa today, so it was a warm one. Tomorrow, still on the warm side, and then after that, it really begins to cool down. Max Defender 8 radar, a couple of spotty showers possible this evening, but for the most part, it should be dry overnight tonight. Again, a quick shower, nothing more. Tomorrow, we'll see one band of showers kind of move through. It could happen really anytime, but probably during the afternoon and later part of the day. And then we'll start to see those bands crank up a little bit more on Wednesday. Here we are Wednesday morning. Notice the storm's approaching the East Coast right there, but for us, we're still generally dry. But then more bands start to move in during the afternoon, and they'll be intermittent, on and off. Here comes the core of the storm along the East Coast. That would be later Wednesday, and so Wednesday night and Thursday, it moves to the west. So how about rainfall? How much are we going to see? Well, this is going to be nothing like Ian. We're not talking 15 to 20 inches of rain. On the East Coast, they could see as much as 6 to maybe 8 inches of rain, but on our coast, it's more likely we're going to see about 2 to 4 inches of rain. You can see the legend right there. How about wind gusts? Well, notice our gusts during the day tomorrow, late in the day, 30 miles an hour, so not tropical storm force yet. However, as we head into Wednesday morning, notice the winds cranking up along the East Coast, and as we head into Wednesday afternoon, some gusts over 60 miles an hour there. For us, we're still not quite at tropical storm force level. That's 40 miles an hour. However, we get there by Wednesday evening. Take a look at Newport Richey at 46, and the strongest wind still on the East Coast. Then as we head into Thursday morning, the storm starts to make its way across the coast, and we have those gusts over 50 miles an hour right there and making their way west towards the Gulf of Mexico as we head into Thursday. Now, because of the difference between high pressure and low pressure, we're going to see this prolonged easterly wind, 5-foot storm surge possible on the East Coast. For us, we will eventually see a little bit of minor coastal flooding on the backside of the storm Thursday night into Friday because we have a full moon and we're going to have those big waves in the Gulf at about 10 feet or so. Now, the heat is going to move out. That's the good news. When the storm moves out, much cooler air is going to begin to move in. And watch these temperatures. Upper 70s to near 80 on Saturday, but by Sunday morning, we are in the low 50s, even some upper 40s on the Nature Coast. So we're going to get a little gift from Nicole as it moves out in the form of much cooler air moving in the second half of the weekend into early next week. So there is a silver lining to Nicole's clouds.
Just have to get through that.
We do. We have to get through it.
And then I'll be good.
It's going to be a stormy week.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
Now here's a look at what's coming up on News Nation.
Tonight on Dan Abrams Live on News Nation. The midterm election just hours away. We bring you the polls that came in just today in the tightest races across the country. Where are we? Big picture tonight. No cheerleading, no bias, just the facts and numbers. That's tonight on Dan Abrams Live.
And that's coming up on the fastest growing cable news network in America, News Nation, available on the channels you see on your screen. We'll be right back with sports.
Well, it wasn't a work of art, but in the end, the Bucs needed to move the football 60 yards in less than a minute to beat the LA Rams, and they did it with 9 seconds to spare. In this week's Bucs with Bowles interview, the coach, Todd Bowles, relives a moment Bucs fans have not seen in quite some time. Offensively, You get the ball right your own 40, just under a minute to go. What do you do in that situation? Because now everybody's just a machine trying to finish out this game.
You try to make sure everything's in tune. They make a play. You don't have any timeout, so I can't call anything. You just want to make sure everything's going right. You look at it as a coach, then you look at it as you got to hold your kind of excitement in there. Once we got down to the 1, and you never know until you actually score. When they finally scored, it was a big sigh of relief.
Cade Otton catches the winning touchdown. There's many reasons fans were happy. He's a wonderful story, wonderful young man. I know you said before camp, this has to be a collective effort to replace Gronk. I'm not putting Cade Otton in Gronk's category, but if that position develops, how does that ease up the rest of the offense for Tom?
Well, I think anytime you get an extra target, it frees up the offense for a lot of guys. So we're going to let Cade be Cade, not Gronk right now. We're going to keep Cade right where Cade is, but we love him the way he is right now. We love the way he's playing. We love his attitude, the way he comes to work and everything about him, so we're happy to have him.
All right, you know the drill, USF fans. The rumor mill is going full speed. But the athletic department is officially linked to no candidate yet to replace Jeff Scott, who was fired on Sunday. Former Bucs head coach John Gruden, one of the many names floating around tonight. Also, Jim Leavitt, remember him?
I do remember.
Yeah,
Jim
he's
Leavitt.
roamed that sideline before. So Michael Kelly, the athletic director, is going to speak tomorrow. I'm sure he'll let us in on not much, but Bulls have 3 more games to go in the regular season. And the early signing day, I remember in December, that's really the target.
It's tough for the kids, though, because they got to play out those games.
Yes,
and,
it is.
what's the future hold? Cade, what a player, huh?
I love him. Love him. He's getting a chance.
New fan favorite, for sure. All right, thank you.
And weather check?
Yeah, well, we're preparing for a tropical storm. Shouldn't be a huge deal, though. Nothing to be scared about, but we're going to see some significant impacts as we head towards the middle of the week.
It's good news when we hear you say that. Nightly news coming up next.
And we'll see you back here tonight for News Channel 8 at 11. Good night.